Okay, let's do one last problem like our problem before, example 5a, where we have to rationalize our denominator. And this one is a little tricky, actually. I'm going to have 3 times the square root of 11x cubed y over 2 times the square root of 12x to the 4th y. First of all, when I see a number in front here, I like to pull those numbers out and think of this as 3 halves times the rest of this stuff, because then I can deal with the one fraction where we have to rationalize our denominator instead of worrying about these numbers out front too. I'm going to do that here. And hopefully you recognize that these are the same thing, because we could take our numerator times the numerator, denominator times denominator. That's how we multiply our fractions together. When I do that, I also notice that if I combine this into one giant square root, I'll be able to do a little bit of simplifying. 11x cubed y over 12x to the 4th y. My y's will cancel out, and I'd have an x on the bottom. That 12 we're still kind of stuck with, but we can deal with that still. So that 3 halves out front, that's still just kind of tagging along for now. We said that x will cancel out on top, leaving us an x on the bottom. We get this. Now, to simplify our square root of 12, while rationalizing our denominator at the same time, let's think about what we'd have to multiply by in order to rationalize. First of all, I have a square root of x. I need to multiply by another square root of x so that I get the square root of x squared, and I can do that nicely. Then the square root of 12 here, well, 12 is 4 times 3. And we can square root the 4, so we're okay with that right now. If we multiply by a 3 underneath here, then that would give me 3 squared. I can square root the 3 squared. So multiply by the square root of 3x on top and bottom here. And again, we can do that because this whole thing is 1. Okay, I'm going to come back over here now. The square root of 11 times the square root of 3x would be the square root of 33x. The square root of 12x times the square root of 3x. Well, 12 times 3 is 36. X times x is our x squared. Square root of 36 is 6. Square root of x squared is x. And then we can put our 3 halves back in there too. Don't forget also, since we took the square root, we have to consider the whole absolute value situation, which x, well, the 6, of course, we don't need to be in the absolute value, since 6 is always going to be a positive number. The x is a little tricky, because x could potentially be a negative number, which makes us think we need the absolute value. But if you look back in your original problem, if you look at the numerator, the only way that x could be negative is if y is also negative, but y couldn't be negative in the bottom. Because even if x was negative, x to the 4th would be a positive number times a negative. So x also has to be a positive number. We don't need the absolute value here at all. Finally, We have 3 times the square root of 33x over 12x. We can do the 2 times the 6. And I guess one last thing we can do, the 3 over 12 we can simplify. Be over 4x. Square root of 33x over 4x. We'll get a lot of practice with this too.